Please go ahead.
Okay, we're ready to start our next round. If I call your name, please come sit in our on-deck chairs. Mike Pepper, Chuck Patari, Brian Hubert, Carla Rojas, and Laura Bolser. Oh, okay. Okay, so then we'll do. Let me call 4 more people so we get it. Oh, I'm sorry, who are you? We have Lexi Glatz, Angelina Semri, and Gil Semri. So our first speaker will be Laura Bolser.
Laura Bolser. I live in Temple Terrace for the last 10 years. I want to start off by saying I appreciate seeing the city take action now. But let's be honest, that didn't happen until we made noise on social media in July. We really feel like we were left in the dark. And since your testing of the PFAS and the PFOS in March, you guys stayed quiet and didn't alert any resident or any business. The mayor went on ABC Action News in July stating, "We just learned of this." But in fact, you had those results in March. We learned about this from results buried in the report, and that was left for us to figure out. There was no alert. There was nothing from the city alerting any of us that we had issues in our water. And that's highly disappointing. I have various questions here that are mine as well as other people in the neighborhood, residents. But one of the things I wanted to really come out and say is, can we please hire that woman who spoke right there, who is so knowledgeable, because I've heard more incredible information and knowledge from her than I have any one of you at these tables. She knows more than any of you. So please consult with her, please. 10 years of reports I saw on the website. I don't see the PFAS or PFOS listed there. And I didn't know there was testing done before March of this year. So I would like to see those numbers. And it's ironically, I've been living here for 10 years, and 4 years ago came down with a god-awful autoimmune disease. So that is where a lot of my anger stems from, is I've been living with this hell for 4 years, unknowingly. So I want to know about these numbers. And I'm a girl who eats organic. I'm a one who buys bottled water. You know, my Doberman has had urinary tract issues. We're now thinking it's probably stones. I used to give him tap water. You know, I lost other animals. So it's so frustrating with the health problems with this water. So I'm angry. I'm still angry. I'm angry with you guys for not being upfront, for not being transparent. So please consider this, Ernie. I responded to your email today about I asked for the reports. It was fine from January 2021, but I would like to see all PFAS, all forever chemical testing since 2015. Has anyone in the city government done a cost comparison between what it would take to fix our water filtration and well system simply versus shutting down Temple Terrace water and hooking us up to either the county or city of Tampa water? Another question, for at least the short term, can we look into buying water wholesale from Tampa I believe that was mentioned, but what kind of timeline are we looking at to do that? We all want a quick fix, and we all know there isn't a quick fix, but we really want one. But we also want to see money spent in a smart manner and not just thrown away, kind of like what Lewis said earlier. Completely agree with his point as well. And that's where I'm just not convinced that CHA is the company. I don't know why you guys are so committed to them. I understand that they were doing some other work. At the last council meeting, I was shut down by Gil to ask my follow-up question, which was going to be, when CHA was speaking, they said, we're going to try to get the PFAS to the legal limit. Why just the legal limit? Legal doesn't equate healthy. The legal limit is 4. The advisory health limit is 0.004. So why wouldn't we strive for that number instead of just striving for what's legal? Because again, I'm going to stress this and repeat myself and beat it like a dead horse. Legal does not mean healthy. It does not. Why didn't we engage counsel that represented Tampa successfully was another question. I have other questions from other people. Do you want me to stop, or can I have a few extra minutes since there's very few people here? Okay.
See glass?
No, I'm Carla. My name is Carla Rojas Paz, and I'm a resident of Temple Terrace. And for full disclosure, I also work for the Government Accountability Office. It's a federal agency that works for Congress, and I work on natural resources, including water resources, like drinking water. So this is my profession. I have a sort of I guess like a PSA and, a PSA and a request and then a question. So for my PSA, this is probably not in the news, but just because of my profession, I know about this. Our Congress is currently planning on cutting something that's called the State Revolving Fund, which is someone maybe didn't mention the name, but probably refer to it. It's a fund that's really important for states that, for water utilities in particular, because they can use it to make water improvements. So they're planning on cutting it about 90%. So if you care about just in general improving your water infrastructure, which is sorely needed all around this country, not just in Temple Terrace, please call your Congress people, your senators, and tell them to keep that funding available. And my request is related to the schools. I would like on the website, and perhaps also if you could work with the schools here, the public schools in Temple Terrace, River Hills, I particularly have my kids in River Hills, to provide transparent information about their water filtration systems. About 2 weeks ago, we received, at least from River Hills, I don't know about the other public schools, we received information. It was just a very general information, sort of a broadcast text that we received about saying that they have water filtration systems, but there was no specific information about NSF certificates, so nothing. I emailed first, and then I called this week trying to follow up. I still haven't received anything, so if you have some clout or connections, that would be great if you can find more specific information to make sure that the filtration systems in River Hills, in Greco, in Temple Terrace are certified to actually filter out PFAS. And then my question is to Ed. You mentioned this a little bit, but I'm not sure. I'm assuming it's part of the scope of the study. But I'm wondering, we've talked a lot about treatments, but I'm wondering if there's been conversations yet, or if you've had the opportunity to sort of talk, or what you all have been thinking about disposing of the PFAS. Obviously, that is a huge challenge. We're just talking about treatment here, and most people probably know about the treatment, but disposing of it is a big challenge because it basically can recontaminate our water. So also, depending on the filtration method that you use, that sort of creates its own challenges as well. So I'm curious about what you all have been talking about, what you all are considering, and if you can also sort of a little bit of a science lesson, just explain a little bit of why that is important. That's it. Thank you.
Now we have Lexi Glatz.
Hi, my name is Lexi Glatz. I've been a resident of Temple Terrace for a little bit over a year now. Honestly, I've never been to City Hall or anything like this in my life. This is my first time, and I hope to never have had to come to one. My main concern stems from the level of transparency from the city. While I appreciate that there have recently been more thorough and active steps towards a solution, I do have a few more questions. There was mention of a settlement regarding this issue, and I may have missed that information, but can you clarify when the city became involved in this settlement? And does the city's involvement in this suggest that the officials were aware of these problems before the recent reports? And if so, why weren't the residents informed earlier? This whole situation has turned into a publicity nightmare for our community, and based on the last city meeting, some of the responses seemed a bit dismissive, and I found that unfortunate. So I'm very happy to see that the steps today were taken and that we have more answers. And additionally, someone asked earlier about how long the current PFAS concern has existed. And I know that the previous regulation was set to 70 parts per trillion, but the actual number from the 2016 water testing wasn't shared. So I guess that might actually help answer that person's question. And lastly, among the listed options for addressing the water quality, somebody up here mentioned, yes, we do have hard water. We absolutely do have hard water. It's really bad. The options that are listed, would that also help in softening the water? Thank you.
Angelina Samurai.
Hi, my name is Angelina. This is also my first time at a town hall meeting. So I just want to thank you all for being here. I can imagine your jobs are very difficult, and especially now with this issue. So thank you for taking our questions. I've been a resident of Temple Terrace for a bit over 10 years, and I went to USF before that for a number of years as well. I'm a member of the Temple Terrace Community Garden, and so I appreciate the information, the helpful tip about the hose fixture. That's good to know. I've always drunk tap water. I basically just drink water. I'm not a soda drinker. I don't drink anything else but water. So I've always drunk water as long as I've lived here, except for maybe using a Brita filter. But as I understand, that doesn't really do much in this case. I'm an extremely private person when it comes to my personal life, but there's one issue I haven't really heard brought up in regards to all this, and that's about fertility. And I'm currently doing fertility treatment, IVF treatment to be precise. And I've had one failed, sorry, I'm trying not to get emotional, one failed embryo transfer already. I know that there's no way to directly connect the PFAS level in our water with our health. And I know that PFAS comes from a lot of different contexts, and I have done everything possible in the last year or two to detoxify my home and my life. And I have no non-stick pans, and I use an EWG app to scan all of my, facial products and everything. And so I've been very careful to try to live a clean lifestyle. And before I proceed with more very costly fertility treatment, when I heard about this, I went to Quest Diagnostics and got a PFAS test, which is very costly. It's $350 if anyone's concerned. And that was after asking my fertility doctor to get me an order, and they said, we can't give one to you. You have to go to a primary care specialist, which my insurance plan didn't require one. So I went ahead and found a primary care specialist after calling around to 3 different people, and most of the doctor's office didn't even know about what PFAS are. So I guess my concern today is more, well, number one is, to raise just to help you understand, if you don't already, And from my little bit of research I've done online, they've done studies where areas with high levels of PFAS supposedly can lower fertility as much as 40% for some women. So that's trying not to be stressed about that, but that's, not great news for me. And I will go forward, obviously doing my best to be a mom, but if that doesn't work, I hope that's something that you guys take into consideration, that there are women in this community that are able to conceive, but there are those that are also, kind of in an uphill battle. And this is one more thing, one more big issue that makes it difficult and very costly and possibly not possible for them. I'm wondering if there will be any sort of reimbursement in the Settlement Act for just even basic testing, like the $350 tests that we have to get to figure out if this is an issue for us. And as I do my research, and I know these are forever chemicals and it says they'll be in your body forever. Obviously people that are, whether they're dealing with health issues or whatever, we would want to know, is there studies, is there information out there that talks about some sort of detoxification option for PFAS? And the little that I found, there have been studies that say that there's soluble fiber that has shown to, detoxify the body. And I know that those are questions for a doctor, but again, some of the doctors I've talked to don't even know that there was a PFAS test. So is there something the city can do to put on your website and maybe consult with healthcare professionals to give us that information in one spot so that the city can be more aware and we can be more aware of ways that we can detoxify our bodies more in the meantime while we wait for the city to come up with a solution? Thank you for hearing my questions.
Gil Summary.
Yeah, good evening. My name's Gil Samraini. And these are actually my two daughters who live in Temple Terrace, have lived here for quite a while. I have a couple of questions, but my first recommendation is that thank you for holding this meeting, but that you have more of these meetings coming up and deliver some progress reports to help stamp out the rumor mill. My first question. And maybe I came in late, but I haven't heard any recommendation from anybody up here in terms of whether you should or shouldn't drink the water, period. Maybe that's a legal liability. I don't know. But I think for the common person, that's probably what we would like to hear. You do it all the time whenever there is a water break on 56th, which seems to happen like once a month. Boil your water, don't drink the water, that sort of thing. Let's do it in this case. Come out and say, should you drink the water or you shouldn't, period. My next question is, I didn't see anything on the general fund about health liabilities in terms of what would that fund cover in terms of compensation for the common person if they had a lawsuit, as my daughter had suggested. Is there any sort of compensation for point of entry systems? If we're required, and this is something that would affect your property value, I guess. If you're required to put a point of entry system inside your house so that you can be as competitive with your neighbor in case you ever wanted to sell, more importantly for health reasons, but it seems to me that's what we're going to have to do, then shouldn't we be compensated for it? Because the city has a job, and you've spoken about that, and you're doing the job to look forward and see what the next step is to give us clean water. But right now, how do you handle right now? How do you fix right now? Because you're forcing everything onto us to actually fix the problem or get our own clean water. That's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Samarini. So just Ms. Bolzer asked about the UCMR 3 report, and we'll that's the report from 20 2013 to 2015, that time period. We'll post that on the website later this week. She is also, there was also a question about whether we had done the calculation to see if we can buy water from the county or Tampa. I may be reading into it. I don't know which one she said specifically, but in fact, that's what we mentioned earlier. We've had those meetings with the city of Tampa. We had a meeting with Hillsborough County to look at that alternative as well, if we could buy water as a solution or part of a greater solution here to this issue. As I mentioned, Hillsborough County, the staff there is working up a potential intergovernmental bulk water rate for us to consider. But of course, we'd still have to make the connection from wherever the limits of the county system to where our system starts. So it's not exactly simple, but they're very open to that, and we're looking at that as well, again, as part of this whole process. Question was raised as well, can we buy water temporarily from Tampa Bay Water? The issue is buying water, you have to have the connection. It's because we're talking 4 million or more gallons per day, so you'd have to have a connection. That's what we're exploring in with the county, potentially city of Tampa, to connect with them. Again, they have their issues and they're looking to do solutions, but that may work for all the parties potentially. Question is, why are we so committed to CHA? And so I don't want to speak to the credentials. I think they have credentials here already that stand for themselves. But if you'll recall, we have tried to accelerate this issue. And in accelerating this issue, we had our consultants already working on a water treatment facility master plan. Part of that was going to be some PFAS research as well. So what we've done is moved that part of the plan up front and get them working on it as quickly as possible. In fact, they went and did some sampling before their change order was even approved by the council at their own risk, because we were really trying to move this along as quickly as possible. If we look to go with somebody else, and again, this is not, I'm not trying to denigrate what their responsibilities are and their expertise, but if we go with somebody else, that's a multi-month process to vet firms, to do it the legal way. You have to issue requests for proposals or requests for qualifications. Then that'll take a month, and a month of being on the street, and then interviewing firms. We just felt the community did not want that. The community wanted us to move, and that's what we tried to do here. And we have a very good firm on tap here, and we feel that we're going to get to those solutions. Question was also about whether the filtration systems we were looking at were just going to get us to the legal limit, or were they going to go below the legal limit? And you want to talk to that?
Yeah, I think what I did mention is, there is a goal to get to zero on PFAS, and that is what I would want. But what I want doesn't matter. It's what you guys and the elected officials want here. So if you guys say, the elected officials, we want zero, then we will design to zero, 0.04, whatever the lowest limit is. So that's legally, this is a situation where the limit is 4. Can we get to zero? Yeah, we can. Technically, we can for most of the PFAS items. So that would be something that's achievable, right? So, but there's going to come a slight extra cost with that. And it's got to be something that comes from you all. Do you want to get to zero? I mean, if it was me in my community, I would say yes, right? If you guys say yes, then that's what we'll design to, right? We work for you and we work for the city. And by the way, I want to compliment you because there was quite a few PFAS experts that live nearby here. One in the back was Dr. De Silva, a national expert who is a peer of Chandra Mysore, who's the chief technical officer for CHA on this project. So if you want any assessment of Dr. Mysore's capabilities, just ask Dr. De Silva. They saw each other at a national conference 2 weeks ago. So, we're loaded with we're a firm that specializes on water quality, and we do not put profits in front of people's health. It's what we do here is to meet your needs, right, as defined by you, and lead you to the water, right? So it's the decisions as to how much we treat, those are going to be yours, right? So it's not mine. I'll tell you how much it costs to get to zero, and I'll tell you how much it costs to get to 3.9. And then you make the decision, right? So that's where we come from. And that's the difference in us and, maybe some other, engineers. So that said, let's see.
Okay, next question was in terms of the selection of the outside attorneys, a reference to perhaps why didn't we use that? I'm not sure who the attorney was for Tampa, but question perhaps best suited for you.
Yeah, we chose the attorneys that we did because, again, we wanted to have someone local who understands the Tampa Bay water industry and is also environmental and knows Temple Terrace and the Tampa Bay area. So we wanted to have that as our kind of our contact, and then we wanted to also bring in specialists who are dealing with these multi-district settlement and litigation issues on a daily basis. So we wanted to go with both, and that is why we chose the law firms that we did.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Ms. Rojas Paz. And yes, thank you. Thank you.
We engaged those law firms on July 11th of this year, 2025.
Okay, Ms. Rojas Paz mentioned a couple of things. She actually mentioned the state revolving fund. I was not aware of the potential congressional action to reduce the funding by 90%. Is Ms. Rojas Paz still here? I wanted to thank her for bringing that up because the state revolving fund, it provides low interest loans. They're not grants necessarily, but they're low interest loans for water systems. And there's, as far as I'm aware, there's not a ton of money in that fund to begin with. So if 90% of it's potentially cut, that would be a significant concern and a blow for utilities like us who are in the midst of this. So thank you for mentioning that. Next was a request about the schools. What we will do is, I mentioned we have a task force working on this, a city task force. We're going to add this to our agenda. We will be reaching out to the school district, to the superintendent's office to coordinate with them on getting some responses relative to what types of filtration systems they may have in the school district, and particularly in the schools here in Temple Terrace. Ms. Rojas Paz also mentioned the disposal of the PFAS byproduct, and that is a very real concern for some of these filtration systems. So Ed, can you elaborate, please?
Yes, and that is the tail that wags the dog in this situation, and that's really somewhat of an unsolved problem. So I'll give you an example. City of Tampa is looking at drilling a 3,000-foot well and putting their ion exchange concentrate down a deep well to put their concentrated PFAS down 3,000 foot deep into our lower aquifer. So it's a salty aquifer, and we don't use it for drinking water. So let's say that's legal. But that seems to me like recirculating the problem, right? That may be the lowest cost solution at the moment, but one of the items that research is progressing on is the activated carbon, the granular activated carbon that catches the PFAS, right? The way you regenerate activated carbon is you put it in a coking oven at 2,000 degrees, and it basically activated carbon is coal, right? It's a type of coal, but that reactivates the pores, and the carbon is able to be used again. Now, 2,000 degrees also happens to be the value that destroys PFAS. So if the research comes out and that fixing the PFAS into the activated carbon and recooking it at 2,000 degrees destroys PFAS, then that's probably the way a lot of folks are going to go, right? It doesn't seem to me recirculating it into the environment in another location. Now, deep wells, that's been done and it is allowable, but it's a frontier that we're only beginning to, let's say, solve. We have not solved it completely yet. And so with PFAS, that is all the research is going on to how to get rid of it, right? And it's hard to get rid of. It's 2,000 degrees is hot. Did that answer the question?
Thank you. Moving on to Ms. I apologize, the last name. Was it Blatz? Ms. Blatz? GL Glatz? Okay. So the question was, when did the city become involved? I think with the settlement process, and the city attorney just answered that. It was in July 11th. The question was, were we aware of this issue before the reports? I assume the reports are referencing the first tests that were done this year. And no, because if you recall, as mentioned in the presentation, and back in under UCMR 3 in the 2013-2015, when we tested, we were non-detect. So at the time, the reporting requirements were if you did not meet the minimum they wanted you to meet, or say the minimum they would measure, then you come in as a non-detect. So you have no value. And so that was the case there. So at that time, we were a non-detect under those limits in 2013. And then in 2025 here, when we tested now under the new UCMR 5, again, now it's 4 parts per trillion. That's where we now obviously have evidence that we have PFAS at a level that would not be compliant with the future law in 2031. In terms of the actual, what was the actual number for the 2013 PFAS, PFOS number? Again, it was non-detect. So again, we'll go back, but I believe what was submitted back in 2013, in that 2013-15 period, was just non-detect. So it was lower than the minimum. So the water systems don't report on that if it's lower than the minimum. But we'll see what information is available. And then question about would treatment options help in softening water? I believe Ed said that there was some of that.
Yes, there is, and it's the reverse osmosis. The membrane technology can also soften the water as well. So it can soften the water and remove PFAS in one swoop. So that's a technology we'll be looking at heavily. The city does soften water through lime softening, but the membrane softening would probably be a more effective measure.
Ms. Samrani's comments. Yeah, again, I'm sorry. It was hard, I'm sure, for you to say that out here in public. So thank you for having the courage to talk about that issue. So in terms of fertility health concerns, I don't know if anyone on the CHA team can allude to some studies or perhaps direct to some studies that might be out there.
There's not a good answer that I can give you from that, but I feel your pain, and I share it. It's watching that movie, I was shocked to see that this was like 10 or 15 years ago. I thought we had kind of passed that time that we were doing this to our environment, right? And if you're mad, get mad at the process that allowed this chemical to not only be manufactured, that's harmful to humans in such small quantities, right? But then to discharge it into our environment, right? The city didn't do that. The city didn't make it. It's if direct your anger to stop the production of PFAS. My God, we're still making it, right? So if you want to get angry and do something, then get with your elected officials and talk to them about, taking steps to control the discharge of this, so and eliminate it. So and any other threats that are similar to this, right? You are here tonight because you've had enough, right? This is not something that's acceptable, right? And it shouldn't be acceptable. We should not be poisoning our own drinking water as human beings, right? That just doesn't make sense in any form or fashion. And we need to stop it. That's the problem here.
This next question, again, I'm not sure if it's something we can answer here, but there is a good, I think another good question here, which is maybe we can reach out to, we're fortunate we have USF Health right in our backyard here, the medical school, so we might be able to reach out. The question was, are there any detoxification studies out there that have been proven sound enough to help detox the body? We'll look at that. We'll reach out to, like I said, we have contacts in some of the regional medical facilities and see if we can find out some information. And if we do, we'll make that information available on the city's website. And then the other question was, is there a reimbursement potentially, I guess, perhaps in the settlement agreement for testing for personal tests? And I'm not sure if the city attorney can address that.
Certainly not that I'm aware of in the settlements that we're in. Again, these settlements are geared toward water providers, not so much individuals. That's not to say there might not be something out there. I can at least check with our outside counsel, who are the specialists, to see if they know of anything out there. Otherwise, I'm not aware of anything. Sorry.
I have another one. Question on health liability for common compensation for the common person. I think it's kind of in line with that. So if you could, when you reach out to the attorney, perhaps ask about the same question. And the question again that Mr. Samorini mentioned was, again, should you or should you not drink the water? I think Ed's tried to address this here today. Want to try again?
Yeah, I'll take one last shot at it. I don't have I don't know it yet, but a PFAS issue with my public supply. But I put filters on my refrigerator. I put them on my hose. I put them on the water I drink and my pets drink. So I just do it as a precaution, and that's just my choice, right? So we provided you the information. We can lead you to water. We can't make you drink, right? So, or Yeah, and in fact, on their website, the EPA's website, they have a lot of the information that that for those point of use filters. So there's your answer right there. So yeah, they have point of use filtration information on the EPA's website as far as recommendations, certifications, and things like that. I think I posted the link on my slide there. But yes, they are posting that information to try to help people facing this situation.
So if I could, maybe I could add to that a little bit. So I think the tricky part here is that today, and I know it was said here before, regulations are one thing and health is another. I absolutely get that. I'm not trying to discount that. All I'm saying is that today, the system, the city's water, like Tampa's water, Tampa Bay water, so they meet the current drinking water systems and regulations that are in place today. The EPA has realized that this issue apparently, if you look back since 2013 to now, their science has evolved, their understanding has evolved on this issue. So now they're implementing enforceable levels, which would lead to your assumption, basically, okay, the water needs to be addressed, because now they're saying in the future, we're going to have enforceable levels, we're going to have regulations now. It's not just an advisory, there can be regulations. But at the same time, they're also saying, we understand that this will take some time, because if we all remember, there's nearly 7,000 systems like ours right now in the same situation as ours across the country. So they recognize it's going to take some time. So in that time period, again, I don't want to take away from anybody's concern. I think you have to make individual decisions based on your tolerance for how you feel about this issue. But again, they understand. They're not saying immediately shut down all these 7,000 drinking water systems. That's not what the EPA is saying. They're saying we want you to get to a certain place. That's what we're trying to do. That's why we're here this evening, to understand this issue, better inform our residents about this issue, with the full intent of getting to that place. That's our goal. We want to get there. But I think the EPA recognizes that's not going to happen for all these systems one day to the next. It can't. So I'm sorry if that answer isn't what you're looking for, but I think it's the best one I can give you right now. All I can say, sir, is that, again, you got to base it on your own decision. The water meets the regulations that are in place across the state right now. That's what I can tell you. Well, bottled water is not regulated for PFAS, by the way. So just keep that in mind as well, and Karen's notice it.
We're ready for our next round of speakers. Bridget Morello. Cleopatra Doyle. Gary Tubb. Chris Bardwin. Phil Channel. Bridget Morello.
Hi, I'm Bridget Morello. I've lived in Temple Terrace almost 40 years. I am a professional engineer. I've been dealing with groundwater and drinking water assessment and remediation for 36 years approximately. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. There is no good answers. Not everybody's going to hear what they want to hear tonight. I've been at these presentations for various cities across the country, naval installations, Air Force installations, etc. We are in a world where PFAS regulations, testing methods, cleanup methods, everything is evolving. There is no holy grail. We're still trying to figure it all out. And we're working for drinking water facilities, commercial clients that have the same issues with PFAS. And I want you to understand that the city is not the enemy here. It is also a victim of PFAS getting into the drinking water supply. And by them being here and engaging CHA, they are attempting to make it right and get it improved and help our drinking water. We have to give recognition for that and not undermine the process by splitting hairs for not hearing an answer to every question that we ask, because frankly, they don't have the answers. EPA doesn't have the answers. The FDP, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, doesn't have the answers. So we're all working together to try and get to those answers, and there's probably at the end of the day going to be a combination of things that you heard here tonight as the resolution. One treatment train isn't going to solve our problem. It's going to be a combination of looking at the 10 wells we have. Are they adequate? Are they all impacted? Is just a few of them impacted? Could we treat the wells? Could we, as opposed to treating all the water from one of the treatment plants, could we combine the flow from the treatment plants and have one treatment system? You know, aside from looking at water from other sources, Tampa Bay water is impacted with PFAS. City of Tampa water is impacted with PFAS. Hillsborough County water is impacted with PFAS. Do we want their water? It's just going to add to the problem. So there could be a combination of things that we have to look at, from source water protection, our well field, deeper wells like the other engineer said, to other various things, from pilot testing and developing a treatment system. And we are exposed to PFAS in everything we do, everywhere we do, every product we use. It has PFAS in it. And so it's not just our drinking water that is posing an exposure risk to us. And I liken this to 25 plus years ago, hair on fire because there was a chemical called 1,4-dioxane in the water. Today, we still have no maximum contaminant level federally for 1,4-dioxane. Same thing could happen for PFAS, and yet hair on fire because there are forever chemicals in there as yet to not be certified, but there's studies that are showing what they could affect in our bodies. And, you know, the science on that is still evolving. So, you know, what we can do is limited, and we need to validate the process, the steps that are happening. Frankly, the settlement money is probably going to be a pittance because our concentrations in the city of Temple Terrace water are so low compared to things I've seen across the country. Concentrations 1,000 parts per trillion or higher, tens of thousands of concentrations of PPT or higher are what are posing hair on fire concerns. The 19, 10, 11 PPT that we're seeing, yes, it may be 3 or 4 or 5 times the MCL, but it's such a small concentration compared to others across this country that are dealing with it on a much more severe basis. Bottled water is not PFAS free. Don't fool yourself, okay? And point of use or point of entry treatment systems are only effective if you're actually having a service and maintaining the filtration or whatever's involved in those systems and testing the water to prove that it's actually working. So if you're not taking samples of your water before and after it's being treated, how do you know it's working? You're taking some salesperson's information for that. As far as the pilot testing, I want to validate short-term pilot tests do work. We do them all the time. That's how I design systems and have for many, many years. And we do know enough about usage rates for the media, the carbon, and also for the disposal options, which are very limited. For the brine from an RO system, nobody's got a solution for that. I'm working on several systems right now where we can't get rid of the waste. So, and solution isn't necessarily recirculation or heating, regenerating the carbon, because that just leads to an air problem. So there's a lot of factors that come into play, and I just want to make sure you all take into consideration that the city's trying to do something about it. Let's not lose sight of that.
Thank you, Ms.
And we
Morello.
don't have all the answers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Cleopatra Doyle.
Sorry, I think most of my questions have already been answered. I appreciate all the information, and I especially appreciate the people who have professional knowledge in this field that have been coming up to help clarify some of what we're already hearing. And I appreciate the help that the information you guys are giving us in trying to solve this problem. I understand the frustrations of wanting it fixed now, but also wanting to do it right and knowing that we need to take the time. I guess, again, most of my questions were answered. So I think she just kind of clarified my one question that I had left, mainly that you had said earlier, I think that all the other Tampa Bay area, their levels, are they above, are they also high like ours, or are they better than ours? Because some people are saying use their water. To me, that doesn't make sense if they have bad levels as well. And then as a school teacher here in Temple Terrace, at a school here in Temple Terrace, I had the same concern with the drinking water at school. I went to school thinking, oh, I'll just get their water. And then I realized that's probably not going to help me at all. And either the administration is unaware or not sure what to do, and so not really doing anything. I'm not sure who's responsible for that, and I realize that could be costly for the schools too, but it would be nice to have some information for the parents and teachers that work there so that we can make informed decisions.
Gary Tubb.
Just because you have a sample size of 3 people that are in their 80s doesn't mean that that's a good method of identifying the accuracy, validity of data. So I think there are 2 things I would like to ask of the city of Temple Terrace, and it would the first is on the website for Temple Terrace. Would you put a summary of this meeting tonight? The second thing would be you could call it status update on PFAS. The second thing would be, would you provide a schedule for meetings in the future? Now, I have one particular interest, and it's the sampling protocol that you're using for the collection of data. And whether it's repeated measures, whether it is you take 1 cup, what temperature did you get it at, all of the details. I taught statistics for 19 years at university. And those are important things, but you have to, of course, recognize that it's an additional cost and it may be unnecessary. So would you publish the protocol? Because I'm sure EPA has a protocol. And that's it.
Are you Chris? Or
Temple Terrace for 39 years, and I think there's probably more professional engineers in this building tonight than in any other building in Temple Terrace history. I am also at the PE. Normally, everybody from Jason coming this way knocks it out of the park. You walk on water and don't get the bottoms of your feet wet. But you had testing in March, and you had more testing in May, and then ball really didn't get kicked off until about July. That kind of disappointed me the way it was handled. I thought there could have been a little bit more information up front. One question I had, and if I understood this correctly, the pilot plant will precede some of the temporary, I'll call it mitigation efforts, or I don't know, reduction efforts in PFAS. And you alluded to the fact that there was lead times on some equipment. I've been out of the game for about 10 years. I'll be honest with you, I had to look up PFAS when I got my water report because I didn't know what it meant. But I did some internet, searching like all retired people do. And there is at least one company that has a two to 3 week lead time as of May of this year on getting a plant. They sent a plant to Kalispell, Montana, 2.88 MGD, and it was a temporary plant. So I think some of the lead times are shorter than either you are under the impression, or there might be stuff out there. Tampa connections, or interconnects with other entities. City of Tampa has a 16-inch water main on Fowler Avenue at 46th Street. They have lower PFAS levels than we do here in Temple Terrace. When you go to the county, you're going to be dealing with wells. Each well is going to have a different level of PFAS. Each plant's going to be having a different level of PFAS. I worked for Tampa for over 30 years. I'm not married to them. What I do know is you've got consistent water over there. As an example, on 52nd Street between White Way and Fowler, you've got a 6-inch City of Tampa line on the west side of the street and a 6-inch Temple Terrace line on the east side of the street. Something like that, there's got to be a way to make an interconnect easy and quick. And we used to do them all the time when I was with the City of Tampa. That's all. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, Jeannie, is that the end of this group?
Is Phil Channel here?
Sorry.
My name is Phil Chanel. I have lived in the Tampa area 86 years. I attended elementary school at what is now the Woodmont Clubhouse, when this area was mostly orange groves and dairy farms. But when I got married, I wanted to have a farm, so I moved out into the rural area, and I drank well water for 50 years. Now, as to my background, I had the incentive to look into contaminants because at 35 years old, I was told I had 8 months to live because I had teratoma and embryonal carcinoma cancer. And I was lucky enough to get some experimental chemotherapy, and that was 50 years ago. So I made it a point in my life to find out about contaminants, and as a result, I was the manager for safety and industrial health for a local company. And what I found out was that there are contaminants that are carcinogens in this world that you will be exposed to. Now, the EPA has done a tremendous job in eliminating some of those exposures. I can remember back in the 70s, the big thing was asbestos. And the exposure to asbestos at that time, people didn't realize the greatest exposure you had was at intersections because all the brake drums were made of asbestos. And so if you stopped at a red light, you were exposed to asbestos fibers above the government sanctioned exposure level. Now, I have not heard PFAS and PFAS having an exposure level, and that will be coming in the future. Now, we know that they have set a level of 4 parts per trillion, but that doesn't equate directly to what you can be exposed to without being expecting to be damaging to your body. Now, I don't know whether it is a neurological toxin or whether it is a carcinogen. I think that no one really does. But the EPA has said that this is a contaminant. And we will, with time, with research, with the science, and with good government practices like we're seeing here, we will see the time when there will be a permissible exposure level telling you that you can drink these substances in your water for over an 8-hour time or a 24-hour time and not expect to have any ill effects. Paracelsus was the first industrial hygienist way back in 800 AD. And he made the proclamation, all things are toxic. It depends on the concentration, the route of exposure, whether you ingest it, absorb it, are exposed to it through radiation, even something as pure water. If you try to breathe it, it will kill you. So everything in this world is a toxin. It's just the degree that you're exposed to it. And to some extent, the DNA of your body. One of my employees was taking a welding test, and he did all the things that you're supposed to do when you weld. Now, he was welding on stainless steel, which is a highly toxic fume. And to let you know what a real fume is a metal that has heated up to the point to where it will be inhaled. And he was predisposed by his DNA that if he was ever exposed to that chromium that is in the stainless steel, that he would almost die. And he almost did. Okay? So there's so many facets that are being looked at here. Not only your own personal DNA, but the concentration that you're at. And it is, and if you drink the bottled water, it's all, if you remember that the map, it's all the blue area, and that's where all the water is coming from anyway. But in time, this will be an issue just as asbestos is. You hardly hear about it. But in time, this will be taken care of because of people like you that are here doing the work that you're doing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, just working on the last group then here, that spoke. Ms. Doyle asked if there are other Tampa Bay water suppliers above the 2031 levels. In fact, as I've been mentioning, so the Tampa Bay Water, the city of Tampa, they are all looking at treatment solutions because they have portions of their system at least that have rates that are currently above the 4 parts per trillion. So they're looking at that as well. And that leads me to another question about why would we connect with somebody who has the issue? Again, as we mentioned there, these other communities, these other entities, I should say, they're looking at treatment just like we're looking at treatment. So there may be ways, again, regionalizing this where you can address the issue, get it down by using the different levels of water in different systems. And so these are the kind of things that they're going to be looking at as they move forward. There was also a request for information, I think, for parents and teachers at schools on the water issue. So as I mentioned earlier, we'll be reaching out to the superintendent of schools in their office to see if we can get some of that information out. I also know we have private schools in this area, so whatever comes from that, we'll try to have that replicated. for the private schools that are in the Temple Terrace zone. Moving, yes, yeah. Sorry, in my mind I meant all the schools that are inside. Thank you. Mr. Tubb asked if we would put out a summary of this meeting on the website. In fact, we'll do one better. This recording is going to be in posterity. It'll be on YouTube. The presentations themselves will be put on the city's website. So all the presentations you saw this evening, they'll be there as well this week. Question about would you provide schedule for meetings in the future? We will once we have meetings scheduled in this. Again, we're pretty early on right now in this process, but as we get more information, we'll make that information known to the community, and whether it be a council, some other forum, we'll make sure that word gets out. Can we publish the EPA sampling protocol? I assume there is an EPA sampling protocol, correct? Yep. So we'll look to get that made available as well. Mr. Barquin, when he expressed disappointment in how the matter was handled initially, I don't disagree. We can do better. We're going to do better. We're learning about this issue along with you. Like, I'm a Temple Terrace resident myself. I drink the water. I know folks said I was drinking bottled water here. In my house, I drink from the tap. My whole family does. So we're learning about this as we go forward. And we're going to try and do better. And I believe we are doing better now and getting the word out and trying to get results. It was also mentioned about one company have a 2 to 3 week lead time. So I'm sure you took notes of that in terms of an interim potential solution. Mr. Brockman also mentioned how Tampa has consistent water and recommended us. So we are, like I said, we've had those conversations with Tampa. They're working, or will be working with our staff to look at their infrastructure and look at where the nearest connection point could be. Again, I don't want to mislead anybody if this is going to happen or necessarily today or tomorrow, because again, they have lots of work to do on their end, as we would have to do to make something like that happen. But that is the direction that we are proceeding at the moment. And then Mr. Chanel had asked about whether there was an exposure level for PFAS designated yet, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think the woman in the back kind of summarized it. I think there's still work being done, and I don't think they really know the limits. There's been blood tests, there has been epidemiological studies, and you just have to take a look at those and go from there. There's also organizations that are helping, some of the higher concentration PFAS utilities around the country, and some of those folks may have some better ideas on that. But I think she put it succinctly, though. It's evolving. It's brand new. We're still understanding it, but we certainly know how to get it out of the water, and we're going to start there.
Ms. Barlow, are we any more speakers?
We have 4 speakers left.
Okay.
So if anybody else would like to speak, please, now's your chance. Get a form, submit it. Otherwise, we only have 4 remaining speakers. David Redding. Tara McDaniel. Karen Mikulski. And Carol Dell. Tara McDaniel.
I wanted this to be on record that this town hall wasn't the council's doing. It was a few of us sitting in this audience that requested this meeting. Matter of fact, the mayor said nay to the town hall. We know there are PFAS everywhere. We've heard that numerous times tonight. But we choose what we put in our body and what we purchase. Yes, I've got it on right now. But no, it would not be safe to drink or use in my household, according to my research. My children will not be, as much as I can avoid it. I also have a question about Gen X were detected and reported on our water report that was mailed out right here, 4.4. But on the slide you showed earlier, it showed non-detected. Why was that? I've had many residents reach out to me personally that have called the city and was told there was no issue with the water. Any explanation with that? And that's been recent. What is the frequency of testing moving forward? And these are questions that I've been asked to ask. How will you keep the city informed moving forward? Not everybody has the internet. Not everybody has Facebook, those types of things. And then the questions that are left unanswered, how will they be answered after this night? And I want those questions to be answered. Those voices need to be heard and their questions need to be validated or answered. And we need to hold them accountable for those answers if you didn't receive them. And another thing I think that's positive here, I hope that this situation that we're dealing with and many other issues will create a presence at the council meeting. I've been at the last two. The last one was pretty puny. And that's sad. Our residents need to be there. This is not our only issue. We have people working for us. We need to work for them as well. But we also have to be there to support them if they're going to support us. So I would like to see more presence at the meetings and be a voice for this and many other items of our city. We are the voice of the city. And we need to hold the city accountable. They need to hold us accountable and other people that are involved. It's the only thing.
Karen Mikowski.
Thank you so much for staying so late. And there were some questions that I would also like to answer. So the GAC, which is the granule activated charcoal, like a Brita filter, those do remove 98.6%. So if you have 4% for PPT, you remove that, then it will. So you can make personal choices to have then clear water. I've been using Brita filters for probably 20 years, is whenever they came out, forever. The other is somebody made a comment about CHA or CHS. I'm sorry, I don't know your acronyms. If we should go with them. I think this gentleman is extremely ethical. He says we should not do a direct inject down below our aquifer because it will just recycle into the environment. Yes, of course, baking it at 2000 will then put it into thing, but then you can then find a way. But if this gentleman realizes putting it below our aquifer is going to put it back into it, that is a trusted man. That is, and he said it on TV. So that says something about him and says something about the city council, Mr. Bayer, whoever found him and hired him. So I think we really should consider that. Sorry, I got a little passionate there. Then the other is research for removal, detection, and health effects. This is all it's in the media now. Please, please don't go on Google or on Yahoo and search how to detoxify my body. You're going to get some wellness. You're going to get some, I'm sorry, scam. If it is not a published article, legitimate, on NIH and on some trusted medical publication, don't trust it. Don't buy the $30 Brita filter. And then the other is the FDA does not regulate this. Bottled water does not have a requirement. Foods do not have a requirement. You can go on the FDA, EPA will link you to foods. They will let you know that a lot of seafood coming from China is so beyond our levels. So you really need to see what you're ingesting. This is Teflon. It's in so much stuff. The other thing that I was going to say, it was that. You guys are doing a great job. I think that this is immensely forward for the community that you are here this late and that you are being as transparent as possible. When Ms. Bayer is saying, hey, we will get this for you, they're going to get this for us. I think we need to have trust and appreciation at 9:30 at night, and I'm speaking because I am so proud to be in the city of Temple Terrace.
Geraldo?
people, but it was about the bottled water. The fact that the bottled water isn't like, you know, unicorns and rainbows and cotton candy. I think there's even a problem with the plastic that holds the bottled water. So to accuse the people sitting up here of having bottled water instead of tap water, I don't even know where that was going. But anyway, I just want to say, I guess what I'm figuring out now is a Brita filter is the most economical and the best way to go. That's it. Thank you.
Did David Redding, did he ever return? No. All right, we are out of speaker forms.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Barlow. So to address the last few speakers, Ms. McDaniel mentioned the Gen X chemicals, and it looks like we're going to check the data set again, just double check that to make sure, and we will publish on the city's website that information. Was comment made about many residents have been told by the city there's no issue with the water. I was all those conversations, so all I can say is, again, I'm not sure if they were responding to the fact that today it meets the regulations, like we were talking about it here. Obviously, we're all here, so we realize there's an issue, and we're going to try and work on it. No, I understand. I appreciate that. As to testing going forward, yes, there will be testing, quarterly testing. We did a quarterly test already last July 30th. We're waiting on those results. We're going to continue to do a test every quarter going forward. Ed, is there any additional testing that will be done?
Just the pilot testing. So we will be testing the feed waters to the pilot plant and also the effluent waters to judge the efficiency of the PFAS removal.
And the question about how will questions that weren't necessarily answered here be answered in the future. So I think we're going to broad category questions. We'll probably put those answers on the city's that water questions page. That might be answers that everybody will be interested in. People that put in speaker cards here this evening, if you put it in your email and you had a question that perhaps we didn't answer, we will try and get that answer back to you if we can find that answer in the next several days. But check out the city's website, please, going forward. If you scanned that QR code earlier, again, if you think of something later on this evening when you leave or tomorrow and you want to ask that question, it'll be directed to us. Moving on, I appreciate Ms. McCalskey's comments. Don't have questions there. Ms. Dunn, a big advocate apparently for Brita filters, so thank you, Ms. Dunn, for that. That marks, I think, unless somebody else wants to speak, that marks the, yes, we're going to get to those. So I think right now we've concluded the speakers who are here. We know that people have been watching online, and we're going to take a break here so we can basically collect all their questions and their comments, and then we'll try and address those in front of the cameras for the folks at home in case there are questions that weren't already answered by the folks here today. So if you want to stay, you can. If you don't want to stay, thank you very much for having come out tonight, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. Thank you. Yeah, we're gonna have to take a break because we have to go through the questions and make sure we understand what all those questions are. sticking it out with all of us. So it looks like we have 4 questions again. These were ones that apparently were not answered not asked by anybody here, so they weren't repeats from online. So it looks like first question is, what are the levels in the river water that Tampa uses for their drinking water versus our wells? So at this point, I'm not sure if we have that data here. We don't have that data, and I'm not sure if they parse that data down in terms of exactly where in the river it comes from, but we can look at that and try and get that information up on the city's website as well. Next question was, how much PFAS is in the plastic bottled water at the local grocery store, and how varied is it? Maybe Ed, you want to probably, I don't know what the answer to that would.
Yeah, I don't know the answer. I haven't really looked at bottling water results. I heard somebody threw out a number, but I would just be rethrowing that number out. So I think it's something that we could research and get an answer before the next meeting, for the meeting summary.
Thank you. And then, will this entire town hall meeting be accessible later via some platform? It will. So this meeting will be on YouTube in the archive, and if you go to the City of Temple Terrace section on YouTube, you'll see it there along with our other council meetings, for example. Can we budget a certain amount of testing with an independent lab and offer those test kits to residents who have concerns? So we can look at that. I'm not sure what that would entail, but it's a question I've just been talking with Ed about that too. We can have our task force look at that and what that might mean. So we will work on that also. That is the extent of the questions for this evening. If the council has any closing remarks.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. These are good questions, and thank you very much. We're committed to doing whatever we need to as quickly as we can, as efficiently as we can, and we're all in the same boat, so we're going to do everything we can to make it right for everybody. But again, those who did come out, those who watched and submitted questions, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. The same for me. Thank you to everybody that came out. This is an issue, obviously, that we take very seriously. Thank you to our city staff. I hope you get a sense of how hard they've worked in the last month or so. It's been amazing from at least my perspective on council to watch how hard they've worked and met with the different groups on all this and continue to work hard for all of us citizens. The other thing is, if people want to contact at least me, my email address, city email address, is on the website. Go to click on my name, and my cell number's on there too. I've invited a lot of people if you want to talk just with me, because we can as a council violate sunshine, but you can get my number and everything through the city's website. But anyway, thank you for coming out. I know it's late. Thank you to the consultants down there. Good answers, good work. Thank you.
Good evening. I also want to thank all of you who came out this evening and also watched it online. I do want to say that as a council person and as a resident of the city, we're taking this very seriously. We live here with you. There's not a special water pipe for city council members. We all drink the exact same water. And no, I don't drink bottled water at home. I drink regular water. I happened to not bring myself any water tonight. So it's an important issue to us, as well as important to the community. And we are hearing you, we are listening to you. For the questions that may have come up earlier, when did you know about this? I learned about the test results exactly when everybody else in the community learned. I read the letter. I want to assure you that whether someone had brought this up or not, I was bringing this up at the council meeting, first council meeting that came after we received the results. So again, I live here. I drink the water. I water my organic garden. I, feed my children. We do all of the same things you do. So we are looking at the information that we'll get from our testing and consultants. We're looking at the results that we need in order to establish the best method to address the issue. But I want you to know that we are just as invested in this as any of you in the community are. So thank you, and reminder that we cannot respond on Facebook or social media to specific questions. The best I can say is, please come to the meeting, or please call me, or please email. So want to reiterate that. Please contact a council member directly, and we can have any conversation that you would like to have and answer your questions. We just can't do it on social media. So thank you all.
There you go. I too would like to thank everybody who came out. I know most of them have left at this point, but we are recording it. So we had a very good turnout tonight. A lot of very good questions were raised, and a lot of good answers, responses were given. I do want to thank our consultant team. I think you did a very good job tonight. Did a good job at the council meeting, the last meeting. I want to thank the council for your participation. In particular, I want to thank the employees who I know are going on 14, 15 hours at this point of being at work. I know how hard our team members have worked on making this possible and making it go smoothly. And I know that tomorrow you're back at it again. And so for all of you in the back, I sincerely appreciate all the work that you put in. I appreciate you sticking it out with us tonight. Mr. B, I don't know what to say. I know that you probably haven't had a break in quite some time now about this issue and keeping all the other things going in the city. Mr. Warrenfeld, I know it's been the year of utilities between broken pipes and construction and stormwater projects, and so thank you for all that you and your team do. And again, thank you for the public in particular for coming out, and we will stand adjourned.